Uūūklaamaha, that's what I'm called. But English, I'm Marjorie Mildred Barney Touchie. I was a Barney, but I've been a Touchie longer than I was a Barney. So, yeah. And I've lived here all my life. Uūklaamaha himwitsotusin umatsukwaqtlin anus haahoopantinalla iichim uūūłiʔiwʔath kupkupa wiatma kupshitl wiatma uuswa natsaqtletsu ahni anusi uxsitlawen alla kupxetlatqu anus a'ichnukueqtlet kupxitlquk anusi wikapich alla tatnes uxmisna unutlani usuqtatsu yaqmatsuqqanah wiat haahoopantinalla iich'im wik'aqtlin alla kupkupa anus tliwenap hixil chu. Our elders always told us that we were not to be disrespectful to anything around us, be it animal, fish, shell food, and anything that flew. And because it's noticeable to have herring stand out from the other birds. And the story goes that we must never point and make fun of herring because, like I said, Papa used to tell us that he was the medicine man. In reality, you know, he wasn't a man, but he was going to make you healthy if you were sick. And they said, if you point at a herring, anus, you were going to get rotten fingers, or, you know, because you're pointing with the finger. And you must never do that because it's not going to heal. It'll gradually fall off. So children didn't want to lose a finger, so they never, we were always told you don't point because it's rude to point. And you don't point at anything to make fun of them or to criticize, because they always told us you're not any better than anything around you. Even the plants that were there, we do it, if we gathered it, we did it with a lot of respect. And you never picked more than you needed, so that it will always be there for you. Well, we were brought up with a lot of different values than the kids have right now. You can't get them away from their games, for one thing. Even in school, when I go into a classroom, I always say, you know, my time is valuable. I can't be sitting here if you're not going to listen. So all of them will put away everything else, because I did tell them in the beginning that we can't be distracted by anything, because our time, in the mamatli way, our time is limited. I mean, I can't sit here all day like our elders did. They had so much patience in that we were always, if we needed teaching or guidance, or if we were slipping, like, you know, misbehaving, there was always somebody there, not necessarily your grandparents. You were related to everybody in the community anyway. And there's always somebody there to correct you. The little ones didn't even know what anus was or what a herring was. I don't know if it's because they don't have the same kind of freedom as we had as children to wander through and notice things. And elders took us first trip sometimes if we had been there to make sure we were going to be safe, we knew the way. They're not allowed to do the things we were allowed to do. And I know it's hard because the new parents, the young parents, don't have the same kind of values we were brought up with, like my age group. And I always feel like we're failing our young people in that we're not teaching them the same values, and yet we expect them to behave like we were expected to behave. And there's a few kids who really show a keen interest, and you don't mind sitting with them, Sam being one of them. We've got a few young people in her generation that will really take a real keen interest in how we were brought up, and they recognize it as something that is precious to this community, but we're losing most of our elders. So in losing our elders, those values are kind of going out the window. There's not very many of us left. And even our Nuu-chah-nulth world is such now that there's a lot of gaps in the stories that we tell. And sometimes, like I was asked about the whales, the killer whales one time, how we made room for them or moved out of their ways, especially if they were feeding or when they have their mating season, you don't go anywhere near them, so that, you know, you'll have a future in seeing them come back and what have you. And when I heard the story at Zishat, there was a lot of gaps in the story. And because we're so close to the ocean here, we rely on them to keep us safe too, so you don't disrespect or do anything to harm them. They help you when you need them, because we've had fishermen go out there and they're guided in by killer whales or seals even. But I guess we didn't have a Coast Guard fisheries. We had to rely on the things in the ocean, because canoes are not that big when you get caught out in the storm. They used to tell us to watch the animals, how they let you know what's edible, and you give them something in return when you get something from them. Like, even if it's just teaching by observing. And we always tried hard. Might not be today, but tomorrow I'll think about something I can give you in return. So we were always told, give something if something is given to you, but never expect something that you know the other person you're helping. Don't expect them to give you anything because they're without already, and to always be really generous, not with monetary or material, but with a sense of yourself to another person when they're alone. I really appreciate what we're doing here, because I think we need to be doing this. I think even if we did it every day, we still wouldn't get all that we were taught growing up. And all the values, I think, is still really important, because that's who we are. And the language especially, because I can't translate some of the things that's in our language, because it's relating to what we grew up with and what's around us. And the respect and the values are so tight, and they've got a word on its own that can't be translated. So we can't afford to lose time now. If I can, I'll come. I let things go, you know, for a little while, but I appreciate this much, because we're not going to live forever. And we're all, you know, we're all going to go sometime, but to leave something like this for our future generation, I think is something that money can't really buy, because that's who we are as First Nations people.